Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We'll give a few seconds for, we have 2 more minutes. We're going to give it a few seconds for people to make sure they show up. Today is the Saturday study sessions. What we do here is just go over some topics. You know, it's a full course on Islamic studies that, we're going to be just studying the gamut of topics, the basic topics that everyone should know, so if a person is a new Muslim or a person is a Muslim who've been in Islam for some time and just like to refresh his knowledge, we're going to be going from basically from A to Z. Slow pace, nothing real fast. We're going to go on a slow pace, and we're going to cover a lot of the topics that are essential for a person to know. And if a lot of the Muslims, they know it already, and some of the topics they don't know, and because they're new Muslim, very new Muslim, because everything we're covering, most Muslims know it already. And you just may just refresh your memory and may learn some little tidbits. Maybe just Allah Ta'ala may bring some benefit just in the way it was presented or something like that. So we got 1 more minute and I'm going to start. As for those who haven't been keeping up, we're then starting with Tawheed. As we know, at Tawheed, it is the subject for all of the Muslims. It is the primary subject of our deen. And so we're going to start. We're starting there, and then dealing with these topics, we deal with them in the manner of the Salaf Salih, and I'm saying that not in the catchphrase or in the popular. It's just popular. It's so popular for everyone to say Salaf Salih, but I'm saying when I say that, I mean actually in the manner of our righteous predecessors and in the way that I was taught. In the minhaj I was taught that you began first with the first generation, then the second, and then the third. Even though all 3 generations have been stamped, we start with the first, and then the second, and the third. So in doing that, the first generation, during the time of the Sahaba and the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way they cover the topic of Tawheed is the way that we're going to cover it, and that is with the ayahs of Allah wa ta'ala, with the stories of the Anbiya, and just looking into the creation. And as Allah Ta'ala, that's the first thing that He calls us to, that we look into the creation and we look into ourselves, and we will see the haqq. We will see the Tawheed of Allah Ta'ala just in that observation, and you will see it in its basic sense, in its in its primordial sense, the origin sense, and then from there you can build upon it. And as we had said here in this class, that when you look at the stories of the Anbiya, that we find that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was the Muwahid. He was the one who exemplified Tawheed. In his story, it is the explanation or the path of the one who seeks to travel the path of Tawheed. So we are examining his story. All right, so it's 9 o'clock, and so we're going to start. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله تساءلون به والأرحم إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثات بدعة وكل بدعة دلالة وكل دلالة في النار. All right, so as we began, we're going to, today, alhamdulillah, we had went over some of the ayats of Allah about the story of Ibrahim, and so we're going to go over those real quick again, just a brief reading of those verses, and then we're going to go over the story of Ibrahim. Why are we going over the story of Ibrahim? Anyone can remember? Why are we going over the study of Ibrahim? The story of Ibrahim, or Abraham, as they say in the English language, Abraham. The reason why we're going over the story of Ibrahim, because his story is the quintessential story of the Muwahid, or the one who comes into the awareness of Allah's oneness, meaning that it is to come into the realization that Allah, He is the one deserving, most worthy of all your devotion. And that means not that you should not love anyone, or that you're not devoted to a task or a job or a career, but it means that Allah, it is reserved for Him ultimate devotion. That means the devotion beyond anything else, that I'm more devoted to Him than to anything else. And so from Him, everything gets its rights, right? Because like we know, it says, fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights. All rights stem from Allah. Everything that a brother has upon a brother, a neighbor has upon a neighbor, a human being has upon a human being, an employee has upon the employer, and vice versa. All of this, it comes from Allah. And so when you put this in order, you have an order, a universal order, a divine order within your life. And so all things are ran properly, like the universe. Everything, all of the planets, everything is in a line when you have this universal order, this divine order within your life. And that only occurs when you place Allah first. And so that being, and a lot of people think that's some extremists, that when we say that, that means that we're saying something extreme. No. Because in many cases, you'll find that society would demand that you put them first. They would demand that you put them over God, over every single thing. The moment you walk into a courtroom, you will find that the judge demands that you put the law before everything else. And he don't feel like he's being extreme. When he's giving you a sentence that may seem beyond what he believes that is fair and just, he still imposes that sentence, and he says that I am confined by the law. So one could, be fickle-minded and believe that if a person says that he put God before anything, that he put God first, that he is being extreme. But it's just fickle in your thinking, because you will find that many people. You'll find a woman, you'll find your parents, you'll find so many people who will demand that you put them first. And then some will tell you to put your career first. Well, as a Muslim, as a believer, as one who traveled the path like Ibrahim, you will come to realize that the universe is not set right until you put Allah first. Because Allah is the only one just and fair. And He will make sure that your neighbor get the right attention that he deserves. His rights and all the obligations are set in order. He is the one who's going to make sure your wife gets all of her rights, that everything is set in order. He is the one that's going to make sure your career, that everything is set in order, that you're not one who works so hard and so long for money, but yet you never get to spend it and never get to enjoy life, because He is the one who's going to set everything in order and tell you that your body has a right over you, that your family has a right over you, that even your employment, your wealth, all that has a right over you, and that you are a trustee in all of these affairs. So it is Allah who has no vested interest in any of them, so there's no biasness in his commands. He has no, as we say, a dog in a fight. Everything that he has legislated is for the benefit of human beings. So we find that the Muwahid, he will come to this realization as Ibrahim did, as Abraham did. So that's why we follow in his story, because not so that I would just tell you, but you will see how Abraham, from his childhood, Allah put him on this journey. And Allah always relates these stories in the Quran, not just for entertainment, but all of these has some social value, some benefit for you to be able to learn how your life should go, and how, in fact, your life may be going already, because being a believer, you would trot this path anyway. And when you begin to try this path, if you don't understand the lessons from Abraham's story and the stories, similar stories like this, then you will not be able to draw from this to aid you in your challenges that you are facing. But when you know that this is not a new path, this is not a new occurrence, this situation that you have in, people have had this same problem before. And so by looking at their examples, and you'll be able to draw from that and say, you know what, I must face this in the same manner or in a like manner that Abraham faced it. And I will find a similar result. I will find that Allah will be with me as he was with Abraham. I will find that, I will have the same aid, same conclusion as Abraham had. So we are drawing from that story. And I'm recapping that for the people who was not here in the weeks. And for everyone, you can go on YouTube. We got study sessions, Saturday study sessions on YouTube, where we post all of these videos later, so you can be able to, if you miss something, or you're trying to catch up, you're new to this study session, that you can go and get a recap of what we have already covered. And so, as we remember, we started with the verses from Allah. وَلَهُ الْمُلْكُ يَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ عَلِمُ الْغَيْبِ وَشَهَادَةِ وَهُوَ الْحَكِيمُ الْخَبِيرُ. His will be the dominion on the day when the horn will be blown. All knower of the unseen, in the seen, he is the wise, well aware. So he begins before the story, before he mentions Ibrahim, he mentions that on the day of judgment, that it would be him, that he would be the owner and the Lord on that day, and all will have to answer to him on that day. And so, and that is it's something to be drawn about that, because why? What are we talking about? About having our affairs in order in regards to Allah, and having our affairs in order in regards to our life. And so what would be the end of all of this? It would be judgment. As a believer knows, that it would be judgment, that on that day Allah will call us to be examined for everything that we have done from the time that we was living. And so he begins the story of Ibrahim, letting you know that he will be the one that you will face on that day. So therefore, it is a perfect opening for the subject of Tawheed, the subject of gathering your devotion, your ultimate devotion for Allah. Because why? This will put your affairs in order. So then he goes, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ تَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. And so Ibrahim, and Allah says, and remember when Ibrahim said to his father, do you take idols as gods? Verily, I see you and your people in manifest error. وَكَذَلِكَ نُورِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ ملكوت السماوات والأرض وليكون من الموقنين. Thus did we show Ibrahim the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, that he be one of those who have faith with certainty. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ لَيْلٌ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. So when the night overcame him, and he saw the kawkab, the stars, the planets, he said, "This is my Lord." فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. But when it afala, when it set, he said, "I like not those that set." فَلَمَّا أَرَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. So when he saw the moon rise, he said, "This is my Lord." فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ إِنْ لَمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ. And he said, if my Lord does not, he said, but when it said, he said, unless my Lord guides me, I shall surely be among the misguided people. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الشَّمْسَ بَازِغَةً قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي هَذَا أَكْبَرُ. When he saw the sun rising up, he said, "This is my Lord, this is greater." فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. And so when it set, he said, "O my people, I am free. Indeed, I am free from all that you join as partners in worship with Allah. إِنِّي وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ." And so he said that, "And verily I turn my face toward him who has created the heavens and the earth, and Hanifan, sincerely, and I am not of the idol worshippers." And we find in these ayats, it is the initial journey of Ibrahim, and it's the initial journey of any one of us. When we decide that we're going to get our life in order, that we're going to become one who is righteous, or one who is connected with God, what brought us to that point, in most instances, I would say in 95% of the time, 95% of the time, it's because we came to a similar conclusion as Ibrahim. We saw all of these things in life, and we thought each one of them demanded our devotion, or warranted, or were worthy of our devotion. And so we devoted to a woman who disappointed us, or to a man who disappointed us. We devoted ourselves to a job or a career that disappointed us. We devoted ourselves to other human endeavors or material things, and all of it disappointed us. And we found ourselves to realize that, you know what, I need to get right with God, because he is the control of all these things which I seek. All these things that I hope that they work to my favor. He is the one in total control of all of it. So it is him that I should turn my devotion to. And that's why Ibrahim, he came to that same conclusion. As you look, he says, "Verily I turn my face towards him who has created the heavens and the earth." And remember, he had just been looking at the heavens and the earth day to day and been saying, "This is my Lord," or "That is my Lord." And all these things that were brilliant and shining and whatever. And then he came to that conclusion that, now, my Lord is the Lord who created all of this. And likewise, all of us who decide to become religious, we decide, man, you know what? I went hard to try to make money and try to get myself, and my family, take care of everybody, to the point to where I went against my own morals and principles. Those morals and principles that I was raised with, and I started to cheat. I started to rob. I started to sell things on drugs or whatever that I felt that just the means justifies the ends. And so I did these things, or I worked long hours, overtime, on top of overtime. I know of a person recently, and this is a sad thing, that he had retired from the military. He went into the state prison system, retired from the state prison system, joined the federal prison system, and was an officer in the federal prison system. He was on every task force they had. He did all the overtime. He was like one of the chief persons to do overtime. And he was talking about how when he retires, he's going to retire from the third job, right? Third career, military, state, and now the federal. And when retiring from the federal, because of so much overtime he did and so much things he was involved in, that he would have like this like abundance of wealth because of his retirement. But yet he was due to retire in like that year, and he died. Yeah, it came upon him all abruptly, and he was in no time he was gone from cancer. From no time, he might more likely he had it for a while and it was undiagnosed, but it came out of nowhere and it struck him hard. Boom. And he died from cancer. And so where all that wealth, all of that he sought of doing wealth and devoting himself, he lived in the prison so much he might as well have been incarcerated, because you saw him all day, every day. He would be on one shift 8 hours, the next shift 8 hours, and he was, and doing this or doing that. And he did all this with the understanding that at the end, he would have this abundance of wealth, and he would have achieved such greatness. But yet he died before he can even get to that point. And it was only a hand span away from him. But yet he died before he can even reach it. Because the qadar of Allah, the decree of Allah, it reached him when he was just a hand span from what he thought would be his paradise. And then and Allah took him. And so, and he was one that he loved to mess with the Muslims. Not in a bad way. He loved to joke with the Muslims. I don't know, but he was Christian. And he loved to joke with the Muslims. He said because the Muslims had saved him in the state prison when it was a riot. So, but he loved to, just get on the nerves of some Muslims. But most people, they understood him why he was doing it, and they, he was cool with everyone. But it's sad because he thought that was his God. This pursuit of wealth through his career, through his job. But yet, like Ibrahim, when it's set, he's finding out now that was not his Lord. He's finding out right now that was not his Lord. And many of us today, we have similar, we have had similar occurrences that brought us to the realization that those things are not my Lord, meaning they are not responsible for my nourishment, my education, my well-being, all of the things that, governing my affairs, that those things are not the ultimate provider or the ultimate disposer of my affairs, but it is Allah. And so that's what made us turn to Allah to become more connected, to get our relationship more perfected, because that is the meaning of religion. The meaning of religion, to me, and this is my from my understanding and learning, the meaning of religion is the science of your relationship with the Creator. And so you have to, in whichever country you're born in or way of life that you had been brought up in, the people who had given you what was called religion in the English language, they gave you their science of the relationship with the Creator. And as we in Islam, as we were taught, and as we know that man corrupts those and add in it and manipulate as he deems fit in order to bring an outcome, a worldly outcome, one that he thinks would be better for him. And so that's what brought another religion. And also, if it was a true religion, I'm saying from Allah, if it was a true religion from Allah, Allah says that he sent one and he would send another as a way of substantiating what was before it as a confirmation of what was before it, and the restoration, because the people corrupted. And so Allah is, in each time, the people, Allah, He brings them religion, correcting what they had corrupted, and restoring the order, this order of the relationship between man and his Creator. And as we know that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the last, and he was the universal prophet or messenger, bringing that last restoration, that last confirmation of all that which preceded. And so when one embarks on a religion, he embarks on, even the religion of Islam, he embarks upon trying to perfect his relationship with the Creator. And that relationship, it is a one-on-one relationship, then a communal. But firstly, it is a one-on-one. And as you see with Ibrahim, that was his story. It was a one-on-one. So we're gonna read his story in its totality, and because what we have read so far in these study sessions was just an event. But we're going to read his whole story, because within his whole story we find the path of the one who comes, the Muwahid, the one who comes to the realization of Allah's right and his divine right to be worshipped alone. So this is Ibn Kathir's rahimahullah ta'ala. This is his rendition of the story of Abraham. And so he says, they said that Tariq was 75 years. This is supposed to have been the father of Ibrahim, Tariq. He had Ibrahim, Nahur, and Haran. Haran had a son named Lut. They also said that Ibrahim was the middle child, and that Haran died in the life of his father in the land where he was born, the land of the Chaldeans, also known as Babylonia. At that time, some people worship idols of stone and wood. Others worship the planets, stars, sun, and moon, till others worship their kings and rulers. Ibrahim was born into that atmosphere, into a typical family of that ancient time. The head of the family was not even an ordinary idolater, but was one who totally rejected Allah and who used to make the idols with his own hands. Some traditions claim that Abraham's father died before his birth, and he was raised by his uncle, whom Abraham called father. Other traditions said that his father was alive and was named Azar. Into the family Abraham was born, destined to stand against his own family, against the entire system of his community. In brief, he stood against all kinds of polytheism. He was endowed with spiritual understanding from an early age. Allah enlightened his heart and mind, gave him wisdom from childhood. Allah the Almighty stated, indeed we bestowed aforetime on Ibrahim his portion of guidance, and we were well acquainted with him as to his belief in the oneness of Allah. During his early childhood, Abraham realized that his father made strange statues. One day he asked him about that. It was about what it was he made. His father replied that he made statues of gods. Ibrahim was astonished, and he spontaneously rejected the idea. Being a child, he played with such statues, sitting on their backs as people sat on the backs of donkeys and mules. One day his father saw him riding the statue of Marduk, and he became furious. He ordered his son not to play with it again. Abraham asked, "What is this statue, father? It has big ears, bigger than ours." His father answered, it is Marduk, the God of gods, son. These big ears show his deep knowledge. This made Ibrahim laugh. He was only 7 years old at that time. Years passed and Ibrahim grew. Since his childhood, his heart had been filled full of hatred for these idols. He could not understand how a sane person could make a statue and then worship what he had made. He noticed that these idols did not eat, drink, or talk, and they could not even turn themselves right side up. If someone turned them right upside down, how then could people believe that such statues could harm or benefit him? Abraham's people had a big temple full of idols, in the middle of which was a niche accommodating the biggest statue, the biggest god, which was of different kinds, qualities, and shapes. Abraham, who used to go to the temple with his father when he was a child, greatly despised all that wood and stone. What surprised him was the way his people believed. When they entered the temple, they bowed and started to cry, begging and imploring their gods for help, as if the idols could hear or understand these requests. At first, such a sight seemed funny to Ibrahim, but later he began to feel angry. Was it not astonishing that all those people could be deceived? What added to the problem was that his father wanted him to be a priest when he was grown. He wanted nothing more from his son that he revered those statues. Yet Ibrahim never stopped displaying his hatred and disdain of them. One night, Ibrahim left his house to go to a mountain. He walked alone in the dark until he crossed a cave in the mountain, where he sat resting his back against a wall. He looked at the sky. He had hardly seen it when he remembered that he was looking at planets and stars, which were worshipped by some people on earth. His young heart was filled with tremendous pain. He considered what was beyond the moon, the stars and planets, and was astonished that these celestial bodies were worshipped by men when they had been created to worship and obey their Creator, appearing and disappearing as at his command. Therefore Abraham addressed his people who worship celestial bodies as Almighty Allah revealed in his meaning. Thus did we show Abraham the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, that he be one of those who have faith and certainty. When the night covered him over with darkness, he saw a star, and he said, "This is my Lord." But when it set, he said, "I like not that those who set." When he saw the moon rising up, he said, "This is my Lord." But when it set, he said, "Unless my Lord guides me, I shall surely be among the erring people." When he saw the sun rising up, he said, "This is my Lord, this is greater." But when it set, he said, "O my people, and I am indeed free from all that you join as partners in worship with Allah. Verily, I have turned my face towards him who has created the heavens and the earth, Hanifan, sincerely." His people disputed with him. He said, "Do you dispute with me concerning Allah while he has guided me, and I fear not those whom you associate with Allah in worship? Nothing can happen to me except when my Lord, Allah, wills something. My Lord comprehends in his knowledge all things. Will you not then remember? And how should I fear those whom you associate in worship with Allah, though they can neither benefit nor harm? While you fear not that you have joined in worship with Allah things for which he has not sent down to you any authority. So which of the two parties have more right to be in security? If you but know, it is those who believe in the oneness of Allah and confess not their belief in zulm, wrongdoing, and idols and worship and other than Allah. For them only there is security, and they are the guided. And that was our proof which we gave Abraham against his people. We raised him, we raise whom we will in degrees. Certainly your Lord is all wise, all knowing. In that debate, Abraham clarified to his people that these celestial bodies do not serve as deities and cannot be worshipped as partners with Allah the Almighty. Indeed, these bodies are created things, fashioned, controlled, managed, and made to serve. They appear sometimes and disappear at others, going out of sight from our world. However, Allah the Almighty does not lose sight of anything, and nothing can be hidden from him. He is without end, everlasting, without disappearance. There is no other deity but Allah. Abraham made clear to them, first, that the celestial bodies are unworthy of worship, and second, that they are among the signs of Allah Almighty. Allah commanded, and from among his signs are the night and day, and the sun and the moon. Prostrate not to the sun nor to the moon, but prostrate to Allah, who created them, if you really worship him. Abraham's reasoning helped to reveal the truth, and then the conflict between him and his people began, for the worshippers of the stars and planets did not stand mute. They began arguing and threatening Ibrahim. So Ibrahim replied, do you dispute with me concerning Allah while he has guided me? And I fear not those whom you associate with Allah and worship. No, nothing can happen to me except when my Lord Allah wills something. My Lord comprehends in his knowledge all things. Will you not then remember? How should I fear those whom associate and worship with Allah, though they can neither benefit or harm? While you fear not that you have joined in worship with Allah, things for which he has not sent down to you any authority. So, which of the two parties has more rights to be in security? If you but know, it is those who believe in the oneness of Allah and confuse not their belief with zulm, with wrongdoing and worshiping other than Allah. For them only there is security, and they are the guided. The curtains are drawn on the first category of the people, those who were worshiping celestial bodies. The next situation reveals the second group, those who were practicing idolatry. Allah gave Abraham, peace be upon him, the reasoning he needed the first time, and every time he argued with his people, Almighty Allah declared, and that was our proof which we gave Abraham against his people. We raised to whom we will in degrees. Certainly, your Lord is all wise, all knowing. Abraham did his best to make his people heedful to the belief in the oneness of Allah Almighty and to the worship of him alone. He had them to firmly renounce the worship of idols. He said to his father and his people, What are these images to which you are devoted? They said, we found our fathers worshiping them. He said, indeed, you and your fathers have been in manifest error. They said, have you brought us the truth, or are you one of those who play about? He said, nay, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, who created them, and of that I am of the witnesses. And here Abraham, he is bringing to mention to his people, he's saying, why you worshiping these things? And there's people, that first thing they go to say, that we found our fathers worshiping these things. So you find in today's time, you find so many people say, oh, you was not raised like that. That's not the way you was raised, or that's not the way we was raised. And so they're saying is their proof for doing what we're doing is that our people did it before us. Even though, and like Allah says in the Quran, even if your people was in error, even if they were wrong. And see, if you even study, like me, I studied a lot of those different religions and beliefs, and you'll find that really at the core of them, it was a oneness of Allah. And that they did not intend, when you go back, majority of them that I have read, from the Egyptians and from the most of them, you will find that they were explaining the oneness of Allah in a complex manner. And that the idols and all of them, like Abraham's father said when he asked him about the ears on the idol, and he said that signifies his ability to hear all things, right? And that you'll find that the Egyptians, they said in their hieroglyphs and in their statues, they were supposed to be pictorial representations of the one who was unknown. The one who was unknown. That all of what we call of the Egyptians, we call that today they'll say they are gods. In the language, we'll say that those are gods that the Egyptians worship, and the Egyptians called them Natar. But the Natars was not gods; they was divine manifestations of the one, divine manifestations of the one. And you'll find in the Hindu likewise that they also say the same thing, that it is the one which is of many. And it's because they're saying that you could never fully know the one except by knowing all of his aspects. And so the way that the way they taught, because people in those times, the people were more intuitive. The people, the way they learned was oral and pictorial. So they made these representations in order that it may explain to the people fully things that we would call metaphysics and physics and different things of science, that they taught these through these pictorial representations. So even those people in its inception did not intend for them to worship the actual statue. But as you have today, the people will rather not learn and study. They just rather take it from face value. Somebody say, oh, that's so-and-so, that's such and such. And so it became a time, within the Egyptian literature, they say this, that it became a time when the people, the common people, worshiped these things. Well, it was not intended for them to worship those things. And only the people from the inner circle knew its truth. That the people from the outer circle did not know its truth, and the common people. And the Egyptians themselves, if you study into their stuff, they predicted that the religion would become more simplified. Because why? The common people will always, and you'll see continually, they will begin to worship these things. Because, like today, a person, even among the Muslims, you'll find a person asks a question, and you go to explaining it to them, giving them all the proofs and stuff. They don't really want all that. They're going to really be like, hey, man, just tell me the answer. All they want is the answer. They just want the conclusion. Just tell me that. And so now they'll take that and they'll take all these sound bites where somebody just gave them conclusions and they never got the understanding. But yet, it would be fine if they just simply practiced and kept their mouth shut. But they won't. They will engage into argumentation and debating and disputing with only these sound bites that they gather from people who they would not listen to. These same people, they would not listen to them, explain to them so they can have an understanding. So this is what waters down the religion and corrupts the religion, and the people, would be in misguidance. But alhamdulillah, that Allah, He has promised to preserve the text, to preserve the religion. So although we may have all sorts of deviant sects and denominations of people who claim to be Muslim, right? But we have one Quran. When it comes to the Arabic text, we have one Quran, and its sciences, and its different pronunciations. All of this has been preserved because Allah had took it upon Himself, and He said it in the Quran that He would preserve it Himself. So although we have, a lot of the same things that plague the other religions, but for anyone who decides he wants to get up and learn and not just perceive and think he knows, and if he really wants to learn, the text is there. And then Allah accompanied that with the hadith from the Prophet, and he accompanied that with the examples of the Sahabas and their commentary. And so, alhamdulillah, Allah has preserved the religion for anyone who desires to seek an understanding. It is there for them to acquire. So, mashallah for that. But so we see it when Ibrahim, he's saying to his people, why do you do this? And they said, hey, we found our fathers doing it. I'm gonna kind of speed up a little bit of this with Ibrahim, this interaction with him and his people. So, about just narrating a good bit of it, and then we will stop for the day, probably because it's coming close to 10, so we should be at 10 by the time I finish. So, anyway, so Ibrahim, he challenged his people. His first segment of people were those who worship the stars and the moon. Now, in the explanation with the scholars, they say that the verses that as Allah had put them, like if you notice in here, it was one way that they gave the explanations to saying that all of these were Ibrahim saying to the people when the moon sets and the sun sets. But yet, there is I would say could be more likely the majority who say that those first interactions was Ibrahim alone, and then the second part, him confronting his people, that was him confronting them. But the first part was an interaction that he went, like as I explained in it earlier, it was Abraham going through this on his own. So it was more of an introspection and a reflection on his own. Then he took that and went to his people. Whereas in here in the reading, it made it appear as though all of this took place in the presence of his people. And we know in order to see the sun and the moon, those are, it takes days for those events to take place. And so the first understanding of those being Ibrahim's himself going through a reflection and stuff, that is the more correct understanding. So here we go. So after he challenged the first people and those who worship the idols, he then the moons and stars, the celestial bodies, he then turned his attention to those who worship the idols. And the first person was his father, and then his people, and all of them, they had their excuse or their justification for what they were doing is that our forefathers did it. Our people did it. This is the way we were raised, and this is our belief. And so this justifies our continual belief. Whereas Abraham showed them that, you worshiping these things, and these things cannot help you. They cannot hear you. They cannot aid you. They cannot do anything. Only one can do that is Allah, the one who created all things. And so why do you do this? And, they say to him that you don't feel some kind of way about, insulting our gods. And he said, why should I feel some insecurity about saying that to something that cannot harm me or aid me? Whereas you worshiping other than Allah, whom you know is the creator of all things and the one who is able to punish you at will, able to bring you to any challenge that he wishes, that you do this without a second look. You don't even, without a second guess, and you feel secure in doing so. Well, this is who has more of a right to feel secure, me or you? I'm doing it to some rocks and stones, and you're doing it to the one who has the ability to crush you. So here, Abraham ends up going through it with his people, and they go through several interchanges. Then the people, it comes a day of festivity where they go out, and they go out to their festivities, and when they come back, Ibrahim, when they had left, he was like, I got something for y'all. And one of them overheard him saying that, and when they left, Abraham crushed all their idols, broke them all up, except for the biggest one in the center. He left it. So when they came back, they said, "Oh my God, who did this? Who broke?" Who? And they said, one of them said, "I heard the little boy saying something that he got something for us when we left." And so they went to Abraham, and it was like, "What happened to our gods? Who did this?" He said, "Ask the biggest one. Ask the biggest one. He'll tell you." And they was like, he says, "The biggest one, ask him, he'll tell you." And so they was like, they can't talk. And he said, so how do you worship a thing cannot even speak up for himself or aid? And so that made them furious. And they ended up getting Abraham, and it was ordered that he was to be placed into a fire and burned. This is his own people. Now imagine your journey. You come to a realization that, hey man, I have to get myself right. I have to get myself right. I have to get this relationship with the Creator right. It is not proper. I'm missing some things. There is something that I'm missing here. I don't know what it is. Is it because I'm not praying? And if it's, how should I pray? Is it that I'm not praying correctly? How should it be performed? What is it that, what do I owe him? Because I need to get myself right with him. And so we look and we go through this thing within ourselves as to what is the correct way. How should we go with this? And then we find, Allah, and we say it is Allah who is worthy of our worship, who's worthy of all our devotion. And so we turn to Allah, and we find this is the actual meaning of Islam. Is that you submit, you surrender. You have tried everything else, and you can't. Nothing is working. You tried everything else. You've been going against the grain, and then you realize, you say, I give up, man. I give up trying to do this thing my own way. I'm going to do it the way that Allah say do it. And so now you embark on that journey of becoming Muslim, and that, which is that first part of that journey, is the Muwahid. And so you joined, you began to learning your Islam, reading, and so it started to have because Islam is transformative. It's not something of a dormant religion. It is something that has a transformation. It causes transformation. So the first thing, you start transforming. The people start seeing. They start seeing you grow your beard. They start seeing the women they cover. They start seeing even if the sister just covering for the prayer, they looking, they see, I got to stop to do what I'm doing because I got to go pray. And this prayer is not a burden, but it is something that is in alignment for your life. It's placed significant places throughout your day, like the weights that are put on a tire to make it rotate. Is that Allah has placed these in significant points and times in your day that it will bring you back to Him and back to your concentrating on the one who's your devotion and reorientating yourself. And so they start to see this. The people start seeing this reorientation. They start seeing when you come back from praying, they say, so they notice you're different. They notice you are different because why? You have reconstituted your dedication and your devotion to Allah. And so you come back, it was a brief moment, but it gave you a reorientation. And when they see that on you, and so they start seeing this transformation on you. And so now it becomes the opposition. And the first that you may have the opposition with, it's going to be your people. Because why? It's not the way we were raised. You wasn't raised like that. They was raised, they upon what they was raised on, what their forefathers had said, their parents, their grandmothers and mothers, and they feel to leave that would be to abandon these people who have died. And they have devotion for these people who have died, love and dedication, and they don't want to abandon what they gave them because they feel like this would be like a spit in their face or a disrespect to them. So when they start to look at you, that you changing, a lot of things go on within themselves. They start to, some, it's depending on their personal disposition. Some, they look at you and they feel like you think you better than me. Because it be an inward reflection that you start to, you are like a flashlight. You start to show their faults without them even, without you intending to do it. Because while you offer a comparison, because without you, there would be no comparison. So now you come around and then you offer these comparisons, and they start to become self-conscious about themselves. And they start to look and see like, she thinks she better than us. Why? Because she covers, she dressing decent, and they know they're not. And some, so they'll feel affronted. Not everyone, some start to feel affronted. And some, they drink and they smoke, and they try to hand you the drink and smoke, and you don't do it. And so they feel like, dang, you don't change now, huh? You such a, because they start, really, it is just a self-consciousness. They're self-conscious about this comparisons that you offer, which it never was there. Both of y'all was drunks. Both of y'all smoked. Both of y'all, it was all cool. You justify my existence because by me, it's you. I'm doing what I'm doing. It's cool because you do it, and we all cool and we all hip. But then when maybe somebody that he used to look up to, now you no longer do it. And so now that put the spotlight on him. And so he started feeling uncomfortable. And so two things may happen. And this is what the male or the female. They may oppose you upright. Right? By just saying, man, what's that you doing, man? What, and just challenging your belief and your faith on different levels, or your practice on different levels. Or they would begin to try to call you to what they're doing. Come on, man. Try to slide you a blunt here and there. Try to slide you a little drink here and there. A little bit ain't gonna hurt nothing. Try to ease it on you. Try to take you to places where it's gonna be permanent. You know what I'm saying? Prevalent, so that you're going to be surrounded around the atmosphere. Now, they feel more comfortable because it's more of their like and less of you and your like. So, they get you in those type of environments. Or they be real obnoxious, just overbearing with their ways, and the women just trying to, overcompensate for the shortnesses they have or they're feeling. And so you end up becoming in opposition with your family and friends when you ain't even trying to be. You're just trying to get your relationship better with the Creator. You have come to a realization that, hey man, I done did what you're doing. I done tried. Well, or I don't want to do what you're doing, even if I haven't ever did it. I just come to a point that, hey man, I ain't got time for that. Not my, you can, whatever you're doing. I'm not judging you, but I'm judging myself, and I'm saying, I can't live like this. This ain't going to work. I got to find me another way to do this. And so by doing that, you end up changing and transforming, and it begins to put you in opposition, and they began to respond to that. As Ibrahim, Allah brought him to a point where he, not only was he doing what he was doing, but Ibrahim challenged them. And you may feel the need to challenge. But know this, if you do challenge, which it is your duty to either change it with your hand, your tongue, or your heart. But know this, as the ulama, they say, that when you travel this path, sabran ala dhafihi. You must be patient upon what come with that. Because soon as like Ibrahim, you go out there and you go to challenging the people, they're gonna respond. And with Ibrahim, they threw him in the fire. It was said to get him and put him in a fire and burn him, his own family, his father and his family, his blood relatives. Get this man and put this, he wasn't even a man, a child. Get this boy and put him in this fire. Burn them. We got to get rid of him. And likewise, you go to getting this, I got to call my people. Yes, you do. But know this, you better use some tech. You better be savvy. You better be conscious of the fact that you may receive some opposition. And I have seen it constantly with brothers that they'll go to want to correct other brothers who doing wrong, or correct other people who was doing wrong, and then the people smack them. They cry and scream and holler. No. This is not the way. This is not the way that we were taught. This is not the way it was laid down for us. Yes, he is wrong. Yes, all of that, yes. But you wrong for going into that lane and you're not ready for it. Going into that lane and you're not trying to be patient. Going into that lane and thinking that you weren't going to get no opposition. No. So when you decide to walk this walk, as Abraham did, know that you might get some opposition, even from your own children. You know, I don't want to hear that. And now you just like, don't be who you talking to. And now you end up losing your character, your disposition. And then they're going to say, look at him. Look at him. He think, I know it. Look at him. Acting like he all done changed. Look at him. He's the same old person cussing and acting a fool. Or even if you don't curse, but just they see the anger come out you and they say, look, see? The same old person. You going to beat me up? You going to jump on me now? So know this. If you take on the path of Ibrahim in the sense of challenging his people, they may throw you in a fire. And it may not be a physical fire. It may be a mental fire. And still it's going to burn. And if you're not ready to accept that burn, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there. Take it to a lesser level. If you can't change it with your hand, then you have to go with speaking out against it. And if you can't speak out, it's several ways of speaking out against it. You don't have to always go and confront the person in their face and speak out against it. No, sometimes you can do indirect, like the Messenger of Allah. We get our example from the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him. That sometimes he would say indirect, what is wrong with the person who does so and so? What is wrong with the people who do such and such? And then you can indirectly say something, or you can bring up, like Allah Ta'ala does in the Quran, bring up stories that teaches people. Where the people, they hear within the story, they hear their correction. And so use parables and different sayings. Use this wisdom that Allah uses in the Quran and what the Prophet ﷺ used to use, and we find it in the Hadith. So don't always verbally go confront and be affronting the people, because they may throw you in a fire. So if the indirect may not work, and then you try indirectly so much, and it does not work, and you fear being more frank, then at the least hate it in your heart. Hate it in your heart and do not support them, and find a way to, like Ibrahim eventually, when he was thrown into the fire, Allah told the fire to be cool for Ibrahim. And the fire was made cool. And if you be patient like Abraham was patient, Allah will tell the fire to be cool for you. And you will be able to withstand and endure whatever hardship that you receive from being upon the path of the Muwahid, being upon the path of the one who has decided to devote his life to Allah. So this is the end of today's session. Y'all can catch this on YouTube. I'm going to post it on YouTube in a little while. It'll be there. It's on the Saturday study sessions on YouTube. I'll try to post the link again for the people. I appreciate everybody for showing up. Brothers had encouraged me to get on here and do this because of being in the prison. I was the imam, and I was doing it for them, at times, and they missed those classes and those times when we talked. So I have done this only seeking the pleasure of Allah, hoping that it would in some kind of way benefit someone. Anything that I said was correct, it is from Allah alone. Anything that I said that was a mistake and an error, it is from my shortcomings as a human being. And if there's anybody who's seen anything was incorrect, please send me a text and let me know, so that I can bring the correction next week. And just bear with me. Inshallah, I'll get a little better the more I stop being this nervous. I'm not a scholar or a sheikh, and being in front of the camera, believe me, it is like being in that fire. I don't. Anybody who know me personally, they know this is taking a lot to do this. So I'm only doing this seeking the pleasure of Allah and hoping that it will gain me some kind of reward in the hereafter. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters.